Dreaming of blissful summer days and creamy popsicles? Capture sun-drenched memories with the Orange Vanilla Dream Hydration Multiplier from Liquid IV. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water can help hydrate you better than water alone. Live your summer dream with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code INDULGE20 at checkout.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
If you think it's already hard to tell the real from the fake when it comes to content on social media, AI-generated content, well, the technology that the big tech companies were counting on to police artificial intelligence-produced deepfakes may already be pretty much useless. The technology is called watermarking. It's a digital signature that's not visible to the person watching the video, but one that provides a signature that identifies artificially generated content and videos. Watermarking is used by all the leading AI companies, including OpenAI, Meta, Google, and Amazon. It's basically the industry standard that was adopted since 2023. But a University of Waterloo researcher investigating whether or not watermarks were actually secure built on the work of some American schools and came up with a tool to essentially unmark the watermark, making it defenseless against deepfake content. Now, it's leading the big AI companies back to the drawing board to figure out what to do next. You've probably already seen questionable and downright fraudulent ads on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, and this could probably make things even worse. Welcome to The Big Story. My name is Mike Eppel. Joining me from the University of Waterloo is PhD candidate in computer science, Andre Kassis. He led the research coming up with the Unmark technology. Hello there, Andre. Thank you for telling me your story.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to be here.
So what was it that, I guess, intrigued you about this in the first place to start looking a little bit more deeply into whether these watermarks that indicate something's AI or not, what was it that interested you, and maybe actually start with or how exactly the watermark theory is supposed to work?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like AI is literally everywhere nowadays, right? You literally can't escape it. So wherever you go, whatever computer you interact with nowadays, it's basically powered by AI. It's like an AI system that you ask for, like you give prompts and get responses, whatever. It's literally just shaping our lives and our futures, right? Like nowadays we use it, like who doesn't, use ChatGPT, for example, to create images or any other sort of content, stuff like that. And with that being our, reality nowadays, it does look very, very promising, right? We're doing much better than we did, say, like 10 years ago, but it also looks very scary if we cannot find a way to contain the possible damages. What can happen if we, if someone were to misuse these systems? I mean, we see reports about the misuse of these systems on a daily basis, right? Whether it's to, for fraud or scam campaigns, or even to create non-consensual pornography and other stuff like that. It's like very scary stuff, right? So we need, there is right now, I think it's essential for us to be able to find a way to mitigate the damages of these systems. And with that being said, right now there has been a large body of works dedicated to just that, whether it's in the academia or in the industry, with companies pouring millions, if not even billions, into it. And right now, basically, this is looking as our best shot for what is supposed to be, our last line of defense against deepfakes. So, we must actually evaluate it and see if it's worth the hype, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what drew me to it. And with my research that is mainly in machine learning and adversarial machine learning. So I'm typically just fascinated by, how these systems can be attacked and then how they can be protected. That's the end game. But for you to protect something, you got to know how to attack it, right? How to break it in order for you to secure it. And so that I started looking into it, and the results were shocking when it came to watermarking here. Because what I found out basically conducting this research is that, despite all the resources being dedicated to this, approach, or the watermarking paradigm, if you want, it becomes very easy for attackers to actually be able to bypass it. I mean, designing the attack was not easy, but then again, once you have it, right, you can just it only requires you to press two buttons, and you literally just remove the watermark, and you can just go ahead and distribute whatever fake image that you created.
So ostensibly, just in the most layman terms, this is something that person or programmer who creates the AI deepfake can use this to circumvent the watermark feature, basically. Am I right in that?
The idea is that the starting point is that you have an image that is watermark. So for you to use watermarking to defend against deepfakes, the idea is you want to inject this watermark, or this invisible signature, into the image before you return it to the user, right? So if you go, for example, to DALL-E, the model by OpenAI, or ChatGPT, and which will behind the scenes basically access DALL-E and then ask it generate an image for me, it will generate the image. But then with watermarking in place, what it would do is it would actually first inject this invisible signature into the image, and then it will return it to you after this pattern, or this hidden pattern, has been embedded into the image. Now it will be invisible to you, right? So to the naked eye, you can't see it, and this is a very desirable property because you don't want it to interfere with the content. But then after that, what needs to happen is that these Gen AI providers, the same parties or companies who train and deploy these models and also embed the watermarks, they will have a watermark detector, which is another AI model that is designed for this, for the specific purpose of detecting this invisible watermark, right? And then it can apply this kind of neural network to the image after that, and detect the watermark when needed. So now you take the image, and again, the watermark doesn't interfere with the content, and you can go ahead and distribute it. You can do whatever you want with it. If you're not using it maliciously, then you don't need to even think about the fact that the watermark exists. But the idea is that we need to protect against misuse of these images. So now assume this image actually is a malicious image that portrays someone engaging in some kind of illegal activity or something like that, which they were not part of. And now you're just trying to defame that person. And now this image is all over the internet. What you can do is actually, this person now has the ability to dispute this by saying, okay, I was not in that situation. That's not me in this image. And then the provider can go ahead and invoke the detector on the image to actually see if they can detect the watermark. And if the watermark is there, that would mean, okay, it was injected when this fake image was created. That's the only way it could have made its way there. And basically, then you know that this image is actually fake and not real. And this gives the person, plausible deniability. However, what we did was we actually found out that we can systemically actually prove that, any feasible watermark that, is invisible enough to retain quality, and that is also universally applicable to a wide variety of content. Well, again, two basic properties of watermarks. We theoretically show that any watermark of this kind, basically, we know how it would be constructed. There seems to be a universal pattern, regardless of the variety of these schemes that implement watermarking. And then because of that, we know now where the watermark actually resides in the image. And what we can do is we can go ahead and distort this, channel in the image that encodes the watermark. So once you've done that, basically, because the watermark is so invisible, it's so volatile in nature, because it's of such small magnitude, because otherwise it would take over the image, right? And then it would interfere with the content. So because it has this property, making it volatile in nature, then now we go and these minor distortions to the image actually suffice to just eliminate the watermark signature. and now the watermark will not be detectable anymore. Basically, it's gone for good, and then now you can go ahead and again distribute the image, and it will cause the same exact damage it was going to in the first place, and there's no way for you to verify the watermark anymore or to prove that this image is actually a fake and not a real one.
So this is supposed to be something that was basically what the big tech companies, the Metas and Google and OpenAI and what have you, they figured that this was the way, this was kind of the universally agreed to way to determine what was real or fake and to protect people from nefarious use. But this indicates now it can be circumvented. Have you had a response from these companies to say, look what I found, and what are you going to do about it?
I mean, we actually did. So in the paper, we experimented with like seven academic works, like, schemes that appeared in papers that were published in top venues. But after that, we also attacked Google's SynthID, which is, Google's very recent tool that is designed just for this purpose, like to watermark images and then to allow you to identify the watermark after that and see if the image is authentic or not. And we mounted a very successful attack against our system, and we actually, it was around 79% successful. So from 100%, right? So basically the attacker can within one attempt have a much larger probability that they succeed with the attack rather than fail with it. And if that one doesn't suffice, we can just again just generate another image that describes a similar kind of situation, and then mount the attack again, and then with very, very high probability you will succeed in generating a damaging image without the watermark. So we reported the findings to Google, and they have also basically acknowledged the vulnerability. And so they are aware of it. They're currently working on it. We're currently, having conversations with them as to what the next steps should be. But it is, it's another vulnerability. We showed that it exists, and we need to think about what future steps might be.
Yeah, because the way I understand it, this was supposed to be the system that was going to safeguard things, and now that it's been deemed to be vulnerable, they got to come up with something else, and I'm guessing pretty quickly. And then you've also got, is there regulatory oversight to any of this from a Canadian government or U.S. government standpoint, where they're looking at this more closely, and maybe from a legislative standpoint, telling these companies to have some sort of other system in place and by such and such a date to make sure that there is a security safeguard in place?
So that's exactly what, motivated us to kind of study this problem in the first place. We found that the governments are actually encouraging all these big tech companies to invest more and more into the watermarking technology, right? For example, the White House last year secured commitments from 7 major tech companies like Google, Meta, and Microsoft, I believe, and OpenAI and others, to start investing more and basically deploy the watermarking technology as soon as possible. So it is being promoted, and we believe that there's a huge oversight there with a lot of people, whether it's researchers or other legislators or even other concerned parties who are placing all their placing all their eggs in one basket. They're bidding way too high on watermarking. And it's not leaving any room for or any other resources or funds to be actually invested into something else, an alternative approach. And what we show in this research is that the effectiveness of this tool is highly questionable, and you should actually be I believe reallocating your resources right now. We should be exploring other directions. So we hope now that with Unmarker being out there, that it would receive the attention that it needs from these bodies and entities to kind of have some kind of countermeasure put in place, and even encourage governments to oversee these transitions.
Have you been had follow up, or has any other academia reached out to you at all about your findings to kind of explore it even further and expand the research?
I presented the paper at a top venue in computer security in California, and S&P Oakland, in May. And I was also invited to go give a talk at Berkeley in February, which I did. And, I'm currently collaborating with a lot of people on this. We're trying to figure out what the next steps should be. And like I said, it's like a very dynamic, I guess, field. We're constantly exchanging ideas, and we're trying to look into it further. But the problem is, right now, all previous approaches, so watermarking was not the first approach that was taken as a countermeasure against deepfakes. Before that, there was actually what's called passive detectors. So these were systems designed to, spot deepfakes just based on, computational limitations of the system that create them. So because of that, it was believed that they would leave, unnatural artifacts in the generated images or semantic incoherences and stuff like that. And then you can look at them and say, okay, this image doesn't look natural because, there's something that doesn't make sense in some of the features in it. But with the very, very rapid advancement of these AI generators, these artifacts disappeared very rapidly. And right now they almost vanished and these systems went out of use. So this is what prompted everyone to kind of shift their focus toward watermarking. But the idea is, I believe that watermarking as a concept, regardless of even if you have what we wanted to show was, there is an attack that can actually break it. But the idea is watermarking itself faces so many challenges that I believe are irreconcilable, right? Because the problem is, here you are relying on the assumption that, the image, every AI generated image will be watermarked to start with. And then you can go ahead and detect it when it starts causing damage or whatever. But how can you guarantee that? For that, you need to have a central entity, a central body, if you want, or authority that would force everyone who has a pre-trained generator like that to inject and then collaborate when the watermark is to be detected. But maybe you can force it on a national level, or maybe even a little broader than that. But how can you get different countries all around the world to all play along? And worse yet, how can you get everyone on the dark web or black market or whatever to also play along? You'll always have systems that are not watermarked, or that will purposefully be designed to be watermark free. And then what have you accomplished with this? So it might make it harder for your average person to target a specific other person that is close to them or whatever in a specific part of the world. But if you're talking about it, from a global standpoint, we're talking about, large scale attacks or whatever, someone's sitting in some remote country or whatever, and then they have access to this non-watermarked image, and what they want is to just, conduct they just want to mount a fraud or scam campaign or whatever. There's no way to stop them with this.
Yeah. They're not going to follow the rules anyway. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, thank you very much for joining me today. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
And that was PhD candidate Andre Kassis, researcher from the University of Waterloo. Coming up after a quick break, we're going to delve deeper into the issue of fraudulent deepfake content that's already scamming people on social media and what, if anything, the platforms can or should be doing about it.
Dreaming of blissful summer days and creamy popsicles? Capture sun-drenched memories with the Orange Vanilla Dream Hydration Multiplier from Liquid IV. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water can help hydrate you better than water alone. Live your summer dream with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code INDULGE20 at checkout.
Welcome back. If the safeguards to protect against fraudulent AI content on social media platforms is already having problems, what should the companies like Meta and X be doing about it? Several well-known financial experts have recently been targeted for fake investment advice. It's a real problem in this political sphere as well, with fake images and video of top-level politicians. Joining me on the line from Toronto Metropolitan University is Angus Lockhart, Senior Policy Analyst at the Dais at TMU. Nice to talk to you today.
Great to talk to you, Mike.
When you read this study out of the University of Waterloo about the ease of circumventing the watermark feature on AI creations, what was your first thought? Were you shocked, first of all, and or horrified that it was that easy? Not easy for the researcher, but at the end of the day, considering this was supposed to be the be-all and end-all of security, that it was so easily circumvented.
Yeah, I think this might be the final nail in the coffin for watermarking as a solution. It was touted originally as a great solution to this, a great technical solution, so that we wouldn't have to worry about whether content was real or AI generated. We'd just be able to look at these hidden watermarks. But if it's this easy to get around watermarks that are embedded for a single person, then anyone who's actually trying to do it maliciously will have no issues. So it seems unlikely that we're going to be able to rely on watermarking in the future.
At the end of the day, though, this was something that was put on by legit companies, was it? Like there is still the possibility of nefarious forces on the deep web that can create things. They don't necessarily have to have any types of safeguards. They're not going to use that. So how effective is it really to police what is real and what's fake when it comes to AI generated content?
Watermarking was never going to be a perfect solution. It was a relatively easy solution to address all the content that has since been created and will be created by the major players in this. Everything that comes out of ChatGPT, that comes out of Claude, that comes out of Gemini. And that forms, the vast majority of the fake content we see online. And so if we could watermark all of that, we could at the very least identify most of the fake content that's created. You're absolutely correct that for actors that have actual resources, for state actors or other kinds of coordinated groups that can either, adapt an open source model to their own needs or can build their own model from scratch, those groups would never have been limited by the watermarking requirements that major companies are following, because they always would have been able to create content on their own that doesn't follow government prescriptions.
So I'm seeing a lot of stories just recently about, specifically from the financial services sector. There have been Canadians and some Americans, well-known market and financial commentators who have had their images used by fraudulent posts, in fraudulent posts on Facebook or Instagram. And then they've tried to, get this blocked. You can see it on Twitter, X. You can see these fake ads. Is this not something that the companies themselves should be policing better? Because trying to get this stuff, real or not, removed is almost next to impossible.
Yeah. So people impersonating trusted figures to convince anyone on the internet of a fake investment opportunity, that's not new. Previously, it was a lot less sophisticated. So often you'd get functionally photos of people where their mouth moved. And then they were trying to convince you that was a real video of some trusted expert selling you a financial product that wasn't real. That's gotten easier to do, and those have gotten more convincing thanks to the latest developments in AI. And so now it's very easy to set up something with a trusted expert. Our research shows that Elon Musk is one of the top figures to deepfake for this kind of thing and sell people on crypto investments. But it's gotten easier than ever to do this kind of thing. And so that content is all over, X, it's over YouTube, it's over Twitter. So there are serious risks out there. The platforms themselves do have a responsibility, or should have a responsibility, to moderate this content. But what we've seen is that they've been slow to require people to label content as AI generated. Only Facebook is actively trying to detect AI generated content. And X has no AI generated content detection or labeling system at all.
Isn't it ironic? And it's Elon who's the most faked image or you see these ads come up and now they're, like you say, they're very sophisticated. I literally reached out to two people that I know and say, is this actually you? Because it was that convincing. I didn't believe it was, but just to make doubly sure. And in both cases, they said, no, I've literally been had my image stolen by these AI generated models, and yeah, you wouldn't if you're not paying close enough attention, you're getting potential to be scammed. And the fact that X isn't doing anything about it is the most ironic.
Yeah. So one of the bigger risks now is that these models have gotten so sophisticated and the tools have gotten so accessible that it's not just going to be financial professionals who are deepfaked and who are imitated in this way. It'll be people we know. It'll be people you trust who have just enough of their content online to create a convincing spoof of them, which is less and less the amount of content you have to have online to be spoofed these days. And then it's going to be, instead of it being Elon Musk selling you on a crypto opportunity, it'll be your friends or family members telling you that there's some investment that's unbelievable that you have to get in on. And that's only getting more and more accessible. So it's a huge risk. And without watermarking, it's going to be harder and harder for platforms to automatically take this stuff down.
And then you bring in the political element of it. Marco Rubio was targeted for an AI deepfake. And what, politicians say at the uppermost reaches of government, I mean, that could have much more wide-ranging consequences that they have to be, if memory serves, Joe Biden was also, he saw some fake ads involving him during the election campaign and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, it just goes up the ladder of things to be concerned about.
AI researchers have been talking about sort of the first AI election for a while now. Thankfully, we haven't seen any major incidents that have occurred as a result of politicians being deepfaked. But even through the Canadian election, there were examples of particularly Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, and Pierre Poilievre all being deepfaked in certain cases.
Is there any response from the authorities from a regulatory standpoint, from a policing standpoint? Is anybody, being charged with anything? How easy is it even to find the people who are creating this stuff?
So it depends on which type of deepfaked content you're really most worried about. When it comes to the scam content, a lot of that is very hard to trace back. It's often actors who aren't in Canada, which makes it more difficult for Canadians to deal with. When it comes to political content that's deepfaked, often there isn't even necessarily a crime being committed, at least given the current state of the laws, and so there's not much you can do about it. But in general, tracing back this content is really challenging. Trying to find its source is really challenging. And the best we can do right now is try to trace it back to identify whether it's fake or not, and then limit the spread of that content. But actually getting at the actors who created it is extremely challenging.
Limiting it, though, does come back to the platforms, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, X or what have you. Mm-hmm. They have to be the one to police it. And from, let's say, I get scammed or somebody takes my image, who do I talk to say that's not me, take that down, and for it to not happen again? They make it very difficult to have, is there a central 1-800 number to call if you've been scammed on Facebook?
Yeah, as it currently stands, there isn't something to call if you've been spoofed. Typically, the platforms, you have to report that content to them and hope that their built-in moderation system gets to you. But they're not required to act by the government in any meaningful way. And so the last government was trying to put in place some legislation to help address this, but it died on the order paper when the election was called. And so now, it remains to be seen if the new government is going to take immediate action to help address the rise of misinformation and disinformation on these platforms. But as it currently stands, you really do have to just report it and hope that the platform you're reporting to actually cares and is going to be responsive.
Yeah. Shocker that X fired, 75% of its workforce, and a lot of this fraudulent material gets more proficient and profound, so to speak.
Yeah.
They need. Well, I mean, Facebook's got their own, public oversight. They moved to that model too, where you're kind of supposed to police it yourself. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it necessarily works.
No, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we've seen all of these platforms move back away from active content moderation towards more passive moderation. X is obviously the biggest example, which has moved towards its community notes feature, and that's the only way that you can do any fact checking. But even Facebook and Meta products have started to use community notes and are backing away from more active content moderation. So there's just been a shift in the tone, and so we see less and less work by the platforms themselves to pursue improving these issues.
Yeah. Does this stuff keep you up at night? Because considering the severity or how much of a problem this could be or become.
Yeah. I mean, the all the different places that this AI generated content comes up in is extremely concerning, right? It comes in non-consensual intimate images. It comes in election integrity. It comes in scams and fraud. And so, the moment you think that like maybe we've got a handle on the election thing and we got through an election, then you have to start thinking about the fraud issue again. And so it's just everywhere, and it's just becoming more and more pervasive.
Well, hopefully it gets more attention at the regulatory level to kind of swing the pendulum back. Thank you very much for speaking with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Glad you invited me.
That was Angus Lockhart, Senior Policy Analyst at the Dais at TMU. I want to thank him and my earlier guest, Andre Kassis, PhD candidate in computer science at the University of Waterloo, for joining me today on the Big Story Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. A reminder, we're always looking for feedback here at the Big Story. My email address is mike.eppel, that's EPPEL, at rci.rogers.com. On social media, I'm at Eppman, EPPMAN. And just a reminder, you can listen to other Frequency podcast content, like The Roz and Mocha Show, on the Seeker app. That's SEEKR, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Again, thanks for listening.
Remember those endless summer days that felt like they just last forever? Sun rays kiss your skin, grass tickles your toes as you bite into the creamy popsicle melting in your hand. Pure, unbothered bliss. Capture more sun-drenched memories with the Orange Vanilla Dream Hydration Multiplier from Liquid IV. This nostalgic vanilla flavor with notes of candied orange can help keep you hydrated while savoring your favorite golden hour moments. No matter how hot your summer gets, just one stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, with 8 vitamins and nutrients for refreshing on-the-go hydration. Live your summer dream with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code INDULGE20 at checkout. That's code INDULGE20 at liquidiv.com.